Ladies and gentlemen, men and women, young and old, boys and girls, the great Connect Nation, please welcome to today's conversation all the way from Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. This is Danny Franks, ladies and gentlemen. And the crowd goes wild for Danny. Danny, tell us, who in the world are you? Where are you? How in the world did you end up on today's conversation?
Yeah, well, Gabe, thank you so much for the invitation to be a part of the conversation. I have been on the staff team at the Summit Church in North Carolina for the last 21 years, most of that time being in more of a guest-centric role. I've done some other things along the way, but guest services has been really my heartbeat along the way. My title is pastor of guest services and events. So I lead our teams that lead out in the area of guest services for our weekend services and for our major events, and then lead the team that runs logistics on a lot of those different events around the church.
Danny, I know I've told you this before, but I might not have told the Connect Nation here. Our mission at Connect Ministries is to help the church meet new people. That's really, really, really what we want to do. And once they meet those people, we want to help churches effectively assimilate new people into the life of the church. And I've studied and studied and studied who are the leaders that are not just thinking about this topic, but are actually practicing it all the time. And as I've served on the Connect team and we brainstorm about who is remarkable at this topic, we've not found anybody that's more effective at it than Danny Franks. Danny Franks is amazing at figuring out a way for a church to move a person from a first-time guest to an actively engaged participant and member of the local church. And I know this not just from just about hearing of Danny's story, but I've actually been there to Danny's church and watched Danny spend an entire day from start to finish, from morning to the late afternoon, and just teach people, teach pastors, teach leaders how to practically do this. Danny, for those out there listening that haven't been able to attend a workshop like the one I described, what are some things you do that you've written, that you've spoken at, that you do on a weekly basis to just help churches and pastors and leaders think about becoming more effective at this topic?
Sure. Well, first of all, Gabe, that is incredibly kind, and maybe a little bit more of a stretch than you can possibly know. I'm surrounded by amazing team members and volunteers who are in those trenches every single day, and we're constantly learning from each other. But to answer the question, a few years ago, I thought it might be helpful for me more than anybody else. And if anybody else was able to pick up something from it, that's great. But just to put down kind of the journey of where we've been and how we've been thinking about the concept of guest services in the local church, what that's looked like for us over the last couple of decades here at the Summit. Because what we would say is it's not just about something that we do; it's about who we are. It's not a team that we have, but it's a part of our DNA. And so that ultimately culminated in a book called "People Are the Mission." And really the kind of the gist of that was how can we, the big question was, how can churches welcome guests without compromising the gospel? How can we make sure that we're holding doctrinal faithfulness high, but also relational integrity and relational pursuit high as well? And that's, of course, led to a lot of different opportunities to talk about that. And fortunately, it's one of those topics that I don't get tired of talking about because I think it is so vital to the local church. And those workshops that you mentioned are one of those examples of just some ways that we've been able to do that and to help other churches thrive. Because we, as a staff team, we sort of believe the thing that our middle school math teacher taught us, that we ought to show our work, and not because our work is the best work or the only work, but just because we've figured out the ditches that it's easy to steer into when you're having these conversations. And we want to try to help other churches avoid those ditches if we can, because we feel like we're all better when, as the local church, we're reaching our community as effectively and as seamlessly as we can.
All right. So you just heard The great Danny Franks share a couple things. One is, if you've not bought the book, People Are the Mission, you need to go to the places where you can purchase books, and you need to look it up. People Are the Mission. That's the name of the book. I've bought it. I've read it. I've recommended it to churches. If you want to be a church that's more effective at meeting new people and assimilating them into the life of the church, learn from Danny's wisdom. He is Mr. Miyagi on this topic, and you'll want to gain from him. If you've never been to one of Danny's workshops, you ought to look it up. It's an amazing place for you and your team to go and become more effective at this topic. And if you're not dialed in to Danny on his social channels, this would be a great opportunity to learn from Danny through email and wherever else Danny has a social channel. So we'll provide you more information on that. All right. So January the 27th in the year of our Lord 2025, we're going to be together, Danny, for the Connect Conference right there in Nashville, Tennessee. We are so excited about it. Give us just a quick glimpse. What topic will you be addressing for the people out there that are trying to figure out, is Connect Conference a place for them or not? What is something you're going to be talking about that a church leader or somebody around a church that wants to help their church become more effective at meeting new people? What will you be talking about that they'll want to dial in for?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a part of the session that is built around executing a clear plan, and that'll be the really the kind of main thrust of what we're talking about. Of course, the Connect Conference itself is all about helping churches to meet new people, to become more effective at reaching their community, and that is certainly a fantastic and a worthy goal for any church to embrace and pursue. But we know that old adage that a goal without a plan is just a wish or a dream. And so we want to make sure that we don't just leave it at the stage of desire or wish or dream, but we want to really be able to lay some groundwork, lay some tracks so that we can kind of run alongside to make sure that we are executing that clear plan. One of the things we'll be doing is just taking a really deep dive into some very practical steps that churches of all shapes and sizes, rural churches of 80 people, mega churches of 8,000 people, can very easily undertake, and how all of those churches can plan for guests to become family. And I really believe that process starts well before they show up. It starts on those social media channels. It starts on the website. It starts with the church's presence in the local community. But it certainly is not limited to just that. It starts on that first day that they walk onto the perimeter of the property or drive into the parking lot for the first time, and it continues on. We can't really say that our plan is fully executed or realized until probably 18 to 24 months after that first visit. And so we're going to be talking about all of those things, how to plan from before they show up to when they show up to well after they've been around for quite a while, and what does it look like to turn strangers into families, non-believers into believers. What does that all look like?
One of the things that I love about Danny is, while he is part of the Summit Church team, he's not trying to get churches to become Summit Church. This isn't about saying, hey, let's take you in your setting and let's take Summit Church's tactics, and maybe you can be the best Summit Church you can possibly be. Go get them. Instead, what Danny does is something Connect loves. He's trying to get you to think a certain way. There's no church listening right now that if we said, hey, would you like to succeed or fail in the upcoming year at reaching new people and plugging them in the life of their church? Nobody is going to plan to fail in the next season of their story. But a lot of churches actually do fail to plan. And when we ask churches, hey, what is your plan to plug them into the church? Very few churches are able to articulate that. Danny is going to teach you how to think about your clear plan. What's your strategy? Danny's going to help you articulate your strategy and use his weekly, daily practitioner experience to help you do that. So we're really, really excited. We've got 4 ingredients that we want to teach you about how to become the type of church that can meet new people. And one of those is to execute a clear plan. Very few churches have a clear plan, and Danny wants to help you articulate yours. Lastly, Danny, if you just had 60 seconds. That's all you got. You got 60 seconds with a church in, I don't know, Pulaski, Tennessee, or Northern California, or Central Florida, or in a random town in North Carolina. And you said, hey, you're just a few months out or a few weeks out from the Connect conference in January of 2025. You should go. Why should a church leader or a pastor or a key volunteer, why should they consider coming to the Connect conference in January of 25?
Yeah. Gabe, I think, we can have really good intention for helping outsiders become insiders and guests become family, unbelievers becoming believers. But if we don't have that clear plan, if it's foggy to us, it's never going to impact the people that we're trying to reach. And we have to know what our plan actually is for them. And I would say there's probably a lot of people in our churches and on our staff teams that they can't even get an agreement to be able to clearly articulate what is our plan to help turn first-time guests into fully devoted followers of Jesus. And to steal a quote from my friend Todd Adkins, we want to be able to provide a map and not just a menu. We want to be able to provide people with a specific next step. And that, I think that's what the Connect Conference is going to be able to do for churches and to help them get there.
Hey, wherever you are today, if you're a church that's interested in meeting new people and assimilating those people into the life of their church, we've got 4 ingredients that will help you think like that type of church. And one of them is how to execute a clear plan. This is Danny Franks. He's going to be there, and we hope that you'll be there too. We look forward to seeing you at the Connect Conference in January 27 through 29, Nashville, Tennessee, 2025. We'll see you there. Thank you, Danny, for joining us today, sir.
Thanks, Gabe. Look forward